Well, there was tremendous resistance to the program at Reed because Reed was a very small, kind of isolated, insular campus where they had a collection of old guard scholars who simply could not see the value of black studies and were completely committed to kind of a Eurocentric viewpoint.
They didn't even have black books in the bookstore. I mean, in the library, rather. There were no black books in the library. They didn't even subscribe to black magazines. You couldn't even find Ebony or Jet. I mean, it was a whiteout when it came to the experiences of black people.
We were required to take a humanities class. And I remember looking at the curriculum, and all it was about Greek and Roman history. And so we got to talking, and we were saying, well, you know, they're making it seem as if no other culture existed and nobody else's cultural experiences were valued.
It's almost as if black people had been written out of not only the history books, but the collegiate experience. Reed's offering was no different than the University of Mississippi in terms of how it viewed black people, and I thought there's no reason for us to tolerate this.
I think the students and many of the community people that eventually became involved in that process made the mistake of believing that it was enough to be right. It's never enough just to be right. You also have to be strategic, you also have to be tactical, you also have to engage in kind of the rough and tumble politics of a university or a college community.
So we decided as a group we were going to boycott the humanities class, which was mandatory.
Plus I knew, while I lived in New York, I knew some of the cats that were responsible for the building takeover at Columbia University. I met those brothers and had some idea of what tactics you could use to force an administration to change.
Things don't change by themselves. Things change because people decide that they will try to do the things to bring about change that are necessary.
So we started this process of pushing for black studies and met with derision, condescension.
Well, the word got back to us from the administration that if you're going to be a student here, you're going to take humanities. And so we were like, oh, wow, what are we going to do? And then of course they made it very clear that if you should decide that you're not going to take the humanities class and you're going to leave, you need to understand that your academic scholarship will not go with you.
But they did say, we'll allow you to come to a faculty meeting and make your presentation. So we go, and again, the same question that came up was, what is the intellectual basis of your request? As if, what in earth are you talking about when you talk about black history? So I go through the same thing about Greeks being influenced a great deal by black culture throughout Egypt and other parts of Africa. Your person that's called the father of history, the Greek is called the father of history, Herodotus, I guess he knew what he's talking about. Y'all claim he was the boss cat. He said the Egyptians were black and had woolly hair. So should there be any other discussion, you give him credit for being the father of history. This is what the father of history said about the Egyptians. So we were quickly ushered out of that, and we made presentations to the trustees and got the similar reaction. Then we decided that if we're going to get this, we have to take over the building and force this into a showdown.
Well, there was a professor on campus, his name was Chuck Svitovsky, and he came to us, or sent word to us, that if we would take the humanities course under him, he would allow us to pretty much create our own curriculum in terms of the things that, you know, were important to us.
You had a lot of young faculty members. They weren't tenured. They were under contract at Reed. So when the vote came down, it passed barely, only because the young faculty members voted for it.
When you commit yourself to that battle, you have to understand that you're never going to reach a point or a day in which the battle is going to be over. And that's still true today. there's always going to be opposition. There's always going to be a lack of appreciation and understanding. And so, although progress is possible, and although you can see the gains that you've made from time to time, and you can see the benefits and the outcomes that are a part of that process, you never really reach a point where you can rest on your laurels, so to speak. It's always a constant need to prove yourself. It's a constant need to beat back the naysayers. That never ends, because you live in a culture that's still dominated by the legacy and the momentum of a commitment to white supremacy that's lasted for hundreds of years.